The word he always used. Uneducated. My dad said the word casually, like it was a fact everyone in the room already agreed with. And honestly, he continued, glancing around at my relatives, a little worthless too. A few uncomfortable smiles appeared across the table. No one laughed, but no one stopped him either. It was my cousin's engagement dinner, the kind of family gathering where success stories are shared loudly and mistakes are remembered quietly. Your one click can keep these stories alive. Subscribe, because every voice deserves to be heard. Don't miss out on the journey. Subscribe and let's grow, laugh, and learn together. Degrees, promotions, business deals, titles. One by one, everyone talked about what they had achieved. Then the conversation reached me, or more accurately, reached what they thought I hadn't achieved. So my aunt asked politely, "Are you still figuring things out?" Before I could answer, my dad leaned back in his chair. He never liked studying. He said, didn't even finish college properly, always working random things online. Random things. I noticed how easily that version of me existed in his mind. Outdated, incomplete, convenient. I stayed calm. Not because the words didn't sting, but because they weren't new. For years, my father had measured success in a very specific way. Formal education first, everything else second. And I hadn't followed that path. I had left college early, not out of failure, but because something else had already started working. Something digital, something scalable, something that didn't require permission from traditional systems. But explaining that years ago had led nowhere. So eventually, I stopped explaining. Silence became easier. At the dinner table, my father continued. I kept telling him, he said, shaking his head, without education, life teaches you the hard way. More nods, more polite expressions. Still no one asked me directly what I actually did. That part didn't bother me anymore, because I had learned something important. People often prefer the version of you they already understand, even if it's wrong. I picked up my glass of water and took a slow sip, letting the conversation move forward without resistance. Calmness confused people more than defensiveness. Across the table, my cousin asked about my work again, this time directly. So what are you doing these days? Before my dad could answer for me, I spoke. I build digital infrastructure for e-commerce brands. The sentence was simple, neutral, accurate, but vague enough that no one reacted strongly. My dad gave a small, dismissive smile. Sounds complicated, he said, but not exactly a real profession. A few people chuckled softly. I didn't. Instead, I smiled. Not out of embarrassment, out of timing, because after years of staying quiet, something had recently changed, something official, something public, and something my father hadn't yet seen. I reached into my jacket pocket and placed my phone gently on the table, not dramatically, just intentionally. Actually, I said calmly, there's something I should probably show you. He looked at me, slightly amused, still certain, still comfortable, still convinced he already knew who I was. He didn't. And in the next few seconds, that version of me was about to disappear. The years he never asked about. 5 years earlier, I had stopped trying to correct people, not because I had given up, but because I had finally understood something simple. Results explain themselves better than arguments ever do. When I left college, it wasn't dramatic. No speeches, no rebellion, just a quiet decision after a small freelance project unexpectedly turned into consistent income. At first, it was basic work, building online storefronts, fixing product pages, improving checkout systems for small businesses that couldn't afford large agencies. Long nights, low pay, constant learning. But unlike classrooms, progress here was immediate. If something worked, numbers improved. If it didn't, clients disappeared. The feedback was honest, and honesty builds skill faster than comfort. Within a year, I wasn't just building websites. I was optimizing systems, automation, analytics, back-end workflows. The technical side fascinated me, but the business side changed everything. I realized most online brands didn't fail because of bad products. They failed because of weak infrastructure. So I focused there, quietly. While relatives assumed I was doing random online things, I was studying user behavior, conversion patterns, and scaling models late into the night. Courses, forums, trial projects, anything that made me better. No one noticed. That helped, because improvement grows faster without constant explanation. By the second year, referrals replaced cold outreach. Small brands turned into medium-sized ones. One successful project led to another. Then came the turning point. A fast-growing e-commerce company hired me to rebuild their entire back-end system before a major expansion. It was the largest project I had ever handled. And the first time the numbers truly felt real. Not impressive, real. Their revenue doubled within 8 months. Mine changed with it. I didn't celebrate publicly. I didn't announce anything to family. I simply reinvested better tools, stronger partnerships, more advanced infrastructure work. While conversations at family gatherings stayed the same, my life didn't. By year 4, I had moved from freelancer to consultant. By year 5, I had built a small remote team. And by year 6, I was no longer working for brands. I was working with them, handling technical scaling during high growth phases. Still, my father never asked details. Not once. He only asked one question every few months. So, are you planning to finish college? I always gave the same answer. Maybe someday. Not to avoid the truth, but because the truth didn't need defending. Meanwhile, something else had been happening quietly in the background. One of the companies I had helped scale was preparing for a major acquisition. I wasn't an employee, but part of my contract included equity tied to infrastructure performance milestones. At the time, it had seemed like a technical bonus, not a life-changing one, until the acquisition finalized, until the numbers became official, until the documents arrived. I remember reading them twice, not because I didn't understand them, but because I needed to confirm they were real. They were. Still, I told no one. Not friends, not extended family, and not my father, because money changes conversations, but I wasn't interested in changing conversations. I was interested in finishing the work. Months later, when my cousin invited everyone to the engagement dinner, I almost didn't go. Not out of resentment, just distance. But something told me to attend, not to prove anything, just to show up. And now, sitting at that table, listening to my father repeat the same outdated version of my life, I realized something quietly ironic. He wasn't wrong about who I used to be. He just never noticed who I had become. I unlocked my phone and opened the document I had received weeks earlier, the finalized acquisition summary with the transfer confirmation attached. Across the table, my father still looked relaxed, still amused, still certain. I turned the screen toward him and let reality speak for itself. He leaned closer, expecting something small. Then he saw the acquisition document and the equity payout beside my name. The smile faded first, then the certainty. He looked up slowly. "This is yours." I nodded. "It's what I've been building." No excitement, no prideful tone, just clarity. The table went quiet. I didn't say, "You were wrong." I didn't need to, because sometimes success doesn't argue. It simply arrives and replaces old assumptions with truth.